You're going to be happy to hear this. Some pretty incredible news. Micro Center, they sell GPUs. They're giving a $100 Steam gift card with the purchase of any RTX 40 series. I just saw this pop up. Hopefully other retailers like Newegg and Amazon will follow through with this as well. But that's significant. Look at the RTX 4070. You can buy, and they have a whole lot in stock. I just did a video on how much stock there is. You can buy a $599 RTX 4070. There's a bunch to choose from, and you're going to get a $100 Steam gift card. Usually these things are only reserved for like a 4090 or 4080. At first I thought it was just going to be, all right, looks like the 4080 is getting a little gift, but the 4070, you can buy it and you're going to get $100. Incredible. That tells me that maybe they're getting some incentive from either the AIB partners or Nvidia themselves. And like you guys wanted, $50 wasn't enough for a 4070. $550, nobody wants it still. But $100 off, okay, it's a Steam gift card. It's not like you're getting the money off of the GPU, but at the end of the day, you're going to use that GPU to play games, right? And I know we all have really embarrassingly big Steam libraries, and there are probably games that you're going to buy anyway. So most of the time, it kind of equals out. It's not exactly like a dollar per dollar thing, but if you assume that most games are like $60, you can probably buy one AAA title and then maybe a few smaller games, or maybe even it'll help discount two AAA titles or something that are like 60 or $70. But anyway, that's something pretty major, and that tells us that there's more coming. Listen, the 4070 just came out. This is what day is today? Today's the less than a little more than a week ago. That's insane. That's like not even a month. So if it's getting these discounts this early on, the same thing happened with the Ryzen 7950X and those CPUs. As soon as they came out, nobody bought them. Within a week, Micro Center had like free 32 gigabytes of RAM, and they discounted it like a severe amount for a new product. That's what's happening with this Nvidia GPU as well. At least a $100 gift card. I mean, it's not like Nvidia is just giving you some like crappy game that maybe you don't want to play. You can go and buy anything you want, any game that you want. So that's definitely a pretty interesting direction, and it shows you how bad not only the 4070 but all GPUs in general are selling. I even saw this other retailer in Japan that if you buy a 4090, they're going to give you a free Intel A750. I mean, you may not want it, but the people who usually have 4090s, sometimes you like getting the Intel GPU because you're going to tinker with it, right? It's not like you're going to game on it because obviously you have a 4090, but you're curious. How's the A750 play like? How does an Intel GPU look like when it's playing games? So that's actually kind of smart. Or else you can just, sell it or give it to a family member. But that's interesting that they're starting to discount. Remember, we were gouged for GPUs for such a long time. It's nice to see anything under MSRP come back in our direction. That's the point here. We had to overpay for GPUs. Now, their price is still really high, but at least we're getting something, right, to bring the price down. The next step will be to further reduce the prices so you don't even need a Steam gift. I'm sure gamers would prefer to just pay $499 instead of having a $100 gift card. Well, or pay $399 for a 4070, right? 4060 crew. This GPU is probably a 4060 in disguise, but we'll take what we can get at this point. Should you buy the 4070 with that $100 gift card? If I was looking for a GPU, that's looking pretty good actually. That's probably one of the better options under $600. Probably I would take that at this point over an AMD GPU that's like $660. Performance might be similar. You're going to get the LSS3 and you're getting a $100 gift card. There's nothing around $500, I think, that really beats the 4070. Not even, maybe just the used market if you get lucky. So this is bringing up some important questions. I'll have to make a separate video on if the 4070 is worth it at $499, if that ends up being what it gets discounted to. So of course, remember to subscribe for that so you guys catch all of these developments. So we can see that the Nvidia RTX 4070 sales are really bad. It's probably one of the worst selling GPUs recently, but once in a while, you'll be able to see some places like in Germany, I saw it recently, it is selling. Depends on the market, but Overall, it's selling really bad. Nvidia is stopping production. It seems a rumor came out maybe for like a month of the RTX 4070. That's a very believable rumor. Why would they keep making them when, look, go right now and check any retailer that you know. Go to Best Buy, Amazon, Micro Center, Newegg. They all have a huge amount of 4070s. Any model you want, basically. Maybe something like the Founders Edition may be harder to find because Nvidia limits it only to Best Buy. But in general, even the good models, you can find them very easily. And guess what? Most of them are $599. You have a few that go up to like $679, but even some decent ones are around $599. A lot of them are getting discounted already. So Nvidia stopping the production absolutely makes sense. And I think they should have really read the market better and not released as many into the wild, because everywhere has a huge amount of GPUs, and that leaves like a bad impression, and it just seems like nobody's buying anything at all. So even if a couple of people in different countries do happen to buy like the 4070 and people do buy it, it doesn't really make any dent into the entire system. If they had released less and kind of controlled that a little bit, maybe it wouldn't be nearly as bad, but then people would complain that they're limiting the supply. So it's kind of like hit or miss. It's really hard to judge, I guess, a GPU release, but I think maybe they were being a little bit too optimistic, and maybe they're paying attention to AI and the big money over there buying like H100 GPUs, that they tend to forget how kind of downtrodden really the 4070 is right now in the GPU market in general, because the pricing is really not very attractive at all. They probably thought they were giving us a good deal at $599. I'll be honest, that's what probably was going through whoever, was marketing this GPU and thinking of the price. They were like, gamers are going to be happy that they get DLSS 3 for $599, $200 cheaper than the 4070 Ti. Guess what? Anytime I talk about the 4070 price, everybody's like, they don't want it to be even $499. A lot of people are like, this is a $400 GPU. Maybe $499, people would consider it more. Even $550, people were like, I don't really think I want to spend $550. $50 discount is not enough. I think $499 is the minimum for this GPU to start selling like smoothly, not even like overwhelmingly. And it would have to be like $450, I think, for it to really like not fly off the shelves, but at least move in really high numbers, at least in the current like economical condition and how people are viewing these GPUs. At $599, basically dead in the water. Remember, even though you may think, oh, it's only $100, more expensive than, a 3070 was, it has DLSS 3. If you look at the specs of this GPU, it feels like a 4060 to me. I mean, that's just historically, every Nvidia GPU has had better VRAM, better memory bit bus, especially on the 70 series. And historically, the 4070 and the 70 series GPUs have done better than the predecessor, like the previous 80 series GPUs. Look how it matches up against, the 3080. Not very well at all. It's basically a tie in a lot of places. Sometimes it loses to it. Sure, it beats the 3070, but you would expect it to, right? Or else what's the point of releasing a new GPU? And you can't point to DLSS 3 as like, oh, it's twice as good as a 3080 if you use DLSS 3. That's not fair. That should just be an add-on little, thing if you want to use it. Not every game supports it, and even the games that do, not every gamer, even with frame generation, wants to use that technology. And a lot of games, remember, this adds latency, even with Nvidia Reflex. To be fair, Nvidia Reflex does, seemingly a good job at reducing a lot of that latency. And in some games like Cyberpunk or Hogwarts, it's fine, but you don't want to play a competitive game with DLSS 3 because the latency is just not going to be there. It's going to be just way too high for that type of really snappy, quick action that you need. And gamers are aware of this. The gamers that want to play single player games with DLSS 3 and just have more of like an eye candy experience, that's fine. So $599 unfortunately doesn't hit that metric for everybody else that wants a pure performing GPU in terms of its brute force and not have all these other things clouding sort of the performance that's going on there. So that's why it looks like a 4060 or 4060 Ti at most, and priced at $599, people aren't too happy. Imagine if this is having this reception. Imagine the actual 4060, maybe, or the 4060 Ti, and rumors are that it's only going to have 8 gigabytes of VRAM. That GPU, unless it's dirt cheap, is going to be even worse than the 4070. I mean, if they're going to sell it at $499, no thank you. $449, no thank you. $399, and maybe people start to consider it, like the 4060 Ti or something like that. Even though that is the price of last generation, I think that's the most Nvidia can charge and have it sell smoothly. So sure, they can charge $449 for a 4060 8GB, but I think it's going to bear the same fate as the 4070, because the 4070 is probably $100 too expensive, and then the 4060 Ti probably has to be at most $399. And if people are telling me they want a 4070 at $399, imagine what they're going to say about that. It's still going to be less people that even want to buy it at that. That's just the reality for Nvidia. It's not up to me to put their pricing or even tell Nvidia what's a good practice. It's up to us. And then when we see these GPUs in stock, it's obvious it isn't working. 4070 doesn't work at $599. You don't need to be an expert on Nvidia to know that. Just go into any store, look online, and you see massive amounts of stock and nobody actually buying. If you talk to people and ask them how many people came in today and bought a 4070, they'll say, oh, maybe one person, when before for like a 4080 even, they would have like dozens and dozens of people on certain days buying those GPUs, and the 4090 of course would like sell out. So you can make those anecdotal comparisons where we get a feel for the market, and it's been kind of accurate. It's not like it's, completely off and somebody in some other country, they're buying huge amounts of GPUs. Maybe in certain places the numbers are up a little bit and it's the number one selling one, but you got to remember other countries sometimes have terrible pricing that maybe in the US we have better pricing on other products that we can compare with. In other countries, they may have like a 4090 at like $3,000, and then the 4070, even though it's like more expensive than we would pay for in the US, it's a massive delta and difference from a 4080 or 4070 price of Ti. It's a much bigger delta. So for them, it's actually a decent deal. That's why they'll buy it. It's completely different economics than in the US. That's why in some cases, it may be a good deal in another country compared to what other GPUs are priced at there. They don't have the same neat little pricing structure like we have in the US in a lot of cases. Like for example, even in Australia, the 4070 launch started much higher. Hardware Unbox mentioned this, that the MSRP prices were considerably higher than anywhere else. And then after a while, some of the models started coming down. But as you can see, you can have various factors why it may be a good idea somewhere else. But in general, it's definitely not a good idea. And Nvidia stopping the production, if that rumor is true, makes a lot of sense. If they keep producing, that doesn't make sense. Where are you going to stick these GPUs? Stores are already full of inventory in stock of everything else, including older GPUs that aren't selling. So interesting to see what happens. Keep waiting. I think prices are going to go down even more by the end of the year, and you may actually be able to get a decent deal on these GPUs that at the end of the day, for cheaper prices, they're not bad products. A lot of people would be super happy with a 4070, but if they paid well under probably $500 for it, not $600 and above. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.